Hey y'all, how's it going? Get Me Out here. So in case you guys haven't heard, we're getting a huge set of nerfs coming July 14th. So I just wanted to record a short video to kind of document my thoughts on the nerfs themselves and the potential metagame fallout. And so a lot of these nerfs were geared towards standard. Pretty much all of them were. It's not going to have the biggest shift in wild, but it's touching a lot of the decks that are currently the strongest in wild, so I definitely think it will shake things up. But before we get started, just a couple shout outs. So first of all, I want to shout out Emmett Plays for making the graphics that I'm going to use in today's video. And you can find his information down in the description below, and I highly recommend you guys follow him on Twitter. Some great content. And last but not least, make sure you guys drop a subscription here to the YouTube channel if you guys enjoy content like this. It's free, supports me a lot, and lets you guys know when other videos like this come out. Alright, so that being said, let's go ahead and get started. So, the first nerf that I'm going to talk about is Dragon Queen Alexstrasza. So, essentially, the big change here is that you're going from 0 mana dragons to 1 mana dragons. And so while I think Dragon Queen Alexstrasza is still a very, very strong tempo play and a potentially very, very strong value play in the right decks, it just slows down the card. And so what this means is that you're not going to get this kind of Hail Mary coin Dragon Queen Alexstrasza and look for a taunt or AoE or healing against aggro. And so what that means is you're still running these in arena decks, so you're still probably okay into aggro because you're running Reno and you're running a defensive shell, hopefully behind it. I think ultimately what this is going to come down to is Dragon Queen Alexstrasza is still going to be 100% auto include in any Reno deck that's running dragons, and I think you have to think about whether you want to run Dragon Queen Alexstrasza in your non-dragon Reno decks. But in my opinion, Dragon Queen Alexstrasza is still fine. Still very, very good card. Should still see play in Dragon Reno Priest and Dragon Reno Mage. And I'll personally still probably be playing it in a non-combo version of Reno Lock. It's still just a very, very strong tempo play with the potential of a lot of value. So, Dragon Queen Alexstrasza nerf, not a huge thing for Wild, and should still see a lot of play. Next up, we're going to talk about Corsair Cash. So instead of tutoring your weapon and giving it +1/+1, you are now tutoring a weapon and only giving it 1 durability. So I think this nerf is not as impactful as it might look. Like when you say Corsair Cash nerfed, a lot of people are going to jump out of the seats. Corsair Cash is still a very, very good card because it still does its primary function of tutoring your strong weapon Ankar. Okay? And the durability is what you care about more often than not with that weapon. And so Corsair Cash still a very, very good card. I think the big change here with it losing its attack is in aggressive mirrors. The +1 attack is really good at controlling the board, right? 2 health versus 3 health means like you can't kill cannons. It's a lot more difficult to kill captains and 4/3s and 4/4s that are in the meta. And so what this means is stuff like Livewire Lance gets a lot worse, and Wrench Caliber, which was already bad, also gets a lot worse. And so I think you have to kind of reevaluate what you're valuing in Pirate Warrior now, because let's be real, there are very few situations against Reno decks where that last 2 or 3 points of HP are really going to matter that you're missing from like the attack nerf on Corsair Cash. I think it's going to matter more in the aggressive mirrors. And so I think you're really going to have to evaluate, do we go back to the Singleton Ankar card style list, where you get kind of hard wrecked by ooze, and does that mean that Horde Pillager suddenly like increases in value even though that card's garbage? Or do you still run Livewire Lance as a 2/3, which is just not a good card? So I think you have to revisit the Pirate Warriors. So the Corsair Cash, Pirate Warriors still will be a top tier deck, and I think more than not, like, I think the nerf here really just affects the aggressive mirrors. But yes, Pirate Warriors should still be a very, very good deck. Okay, so now let's talk about some of the odd Demon Hunter nerfs. So first of all, before we get into that, let's touch on Kane. Kane's currently irrelevant in Wild. We might see an increase in like non-odd demon hunters in Wild with some of the other changes that we're about to talk about. But with Kane being currently irrelevant, I don't really want to touch on this too much because it's not really going to impact the Wild metagame. Okay, so let's talk about Warglyphs. So Rest in Peace, one of the best cards in Odd Demon Hunter. It was one of, if not the best card in Odd Demon Hunter, and it is now going to 6 mana, so you can no longer run it. However, Demon Hunter was so good, arguably the best deck in the metagame, that even with losing Warglyphs, I believe the deck is still going to be insanely strong. The fact that you have this 1 mana deal to hero power means that this class is going nowhere, right? And that's the same thing for all these even and odd decks, where your decks revolve around your hero power less so than the cards in your deck. Okay. The big deal here is with the Warglyphs nerf is that Odd Demon Hunter now has much fewer comeback mechanisms against other aggressive decks, right? So now you can no longer clear Spreading Plague very easily. You can no longer clear even Shaman boards easily. You can no longer clear Odd Paladin boards easily. It's kind of difficult to clear Discard Warlock boards, right? Pyro Warrior gets an even more difficult matchup. So all of this being said, Odd Demon Hunter is still going to be very, very good. I think what you're going to have to do is eventually reevaluate how you build your Odd Demon Hunter list, because now that you are lacking the comeback mechanism, maybe you need to build the deck more low to the ground, so it's a lot more difficult for you to fall behind. And so maybe you're re-including Warblades, like Eldrazi Warblades plus a Happy Ghoul package. Or maybe we're running even more 1-drops. Or maybe we're running more Tempo 3-drops. So Odd Demon Hunter has survived 4 nerfs already, and it probably will survive a 5th nerf once the list is revised and refined. And then another card that's getting nerfed from Odd Demon Hunter is Metamorphosis. Metamorphosis was a 7-mana flexible Pyroblast, which was pretty damn good. Now it's a flexible 7-mana deal 8, which is still pretty damn good. In Wild, you're not really using it on minions in 99.9% of scenarios, so the breakpoint of 5 versus 4 is not super relevant in Wild. I know it kind of is in Standard with Mana Saber and Shield of Galakron, but that's not really a thing in Wild. It's still 7 mana deal 8. It's still a good card, and you should still be running it in your Odd Demon Hunters. So the next nerf we're going to talk about is Dragoncaster. So Dragoncaster going from 6 to 7. This card's kind of useless now unless you want 2 copies of Inkmaster Solia. Inkmaster Solia is just straight up better now. And so I think you can still consider running it alongside Solia in a Luna's Pocket Galaxy deck if you're running the heavy dragon package. And by heavy, I mean like 4 or 5 dragons that they run. But essentially what this means is that Pocket Galaxy Mage can no longer high roll the slow matchups as consistently. I know high roll and consistent kind of in the same sentence is a little bit wonky, but it's a lot more difficult now for the deck to get out the early Pocket Galaxy, which is good, right? It makes it a little bit less high rolly. It's probably just going to have to function as a control Reno deck with a potential to high roll in the control matchups, control mirrors. And Pocket Galaxy is still probably a very good deck, but probably further from the top of the metagame than it was like this week, right? So Dragoncaster probably safe to dust. Next up, we've got Fungal Fortunes. So I actually think Fungal Fortunes doesn't really matter, and you're still going to be running Fungal Fortunes in a lot of the decks that you're currently running them in now. The 2 mana to 3 mana is just like a little bit of a speed bump, and probably what Fungal Fortunes should have cost to begin with, because Drew is very, very good at having decks with nothing but spells, unlike Mage and Minions. So I think Fungal Fortune is still very, very good. It's 3 mana draw 3 in the late game scenarios. Still will see play in that Linecracker combo Druid deck that's been going around. Still see play in J Druid as well. Like, while this makes the card worse, I think the card is still pretty damn good, and we'll see play more. And last but not least, can we get an F in the comments for Rogue Galakrons? Man, this is one of those cards that, like, this is probably the second best Galakron in Wild behind the Warrior Galakron, but the one that had, like, the most potential. And I know this was nerfed for Standard because the swing turns with the 0 mana cards was kind of insane, But I'm one of those that's like, I hope they're gonna unnerf it when it comes to Wild eventually, because like stuff like Reno Rogue, this is kind of how you make the big tempo swings to compete with stuff like Gul'dan and the other powerful swing effects in the Wild metagame. And so, while I understand that it was really annoying to play against in Standard, it never really got a chance to shine in Wild, and so I hope they'll revert it once they rotate to Wild. But yeah, so those are the nerfs. Again, Rogue Galakron not really seeing playing Wild, so it's not really that big of a deal. But so while these are all standard nerfs, I wish they had touched a couple more things for Wild, and I'll talk about kind of the nerfs I want to see in another video. But I mean, let me know your thoughts, feels, whether you think they got this right or not, down in the comments below. But yeah, so now for the time of the video that I'm going to look back in 2 or 3 weeks and laugh about how hilariously wrong I was. But we're going to attempt to make predictions about the metagame. And this is usually a fruitless exercise because you can't really accurately predict what's going to happen in the metagame and how people are going to respond. But I'm going to try anyways, okay? So what we're essentially looking at with these nerfs is Pirate Warriors coming down a teeny weeny bit in power level, Odd Demon Hunter decreasing in power level by a fairly large amount, and Pocket Galaxy Mage decreasing power a slight amount. Okay, so those are kind of the big 3 shifts of the meta. And so with Pirate Warrior getting a little bit worse and Odd Demon Hunter getting a little bit worse, Quest Mage is very, very happy to see that. Okay, Quest Mage players love to see these nerfs. And Pirate Warrior actually, while they're not really getting touched a whole lot with this Corsair Cash nerf, they're really sad because one of their best matchups was Odd Demon Hunter. One of the reasons Pirate Warrior was so good was because it was probably one of the most consistent counters to Odd Demon Hunter. And so with Pirate Warrior and Odd Demon Hunter getting nerfed, you're definitely going to see a decrease in play for both of those, okay? But what that means is that you're probably going to see an increase in other aggressive strategies to try to combat Quest Mage, okay? Because everybody hates Quest Mage, and it's kind of like the check and balance of our format right now. Because Reno Priest basically beats all the aggro decks, and so Quest Mage, Mechathene Warlock, Linecracker Druid are kind of your checks on Reno Priest. And so your aggro decks need to be able to beat those 3 combo decks, and so... But decks like Secret Mage, Even Shaman, Odd Paladin, and kind of Discard Warlock are kind of the big winners of this patch, because the matchup into Demon Hunter gets a hell of a lot better now with the Warglaves nerfs. And these decks are fairly effective into Quest Mage. And so I think what we're looking at is another Quest Mage, Reno Priest sort of metagame with kind of a myriad of aggressive strategies that are increasing popularity. And so I think the 2 decks for me, personally, to keep an eye on in the post-nerf metagame are Discard Warlock and Even Shaman. I think these are 2 kind of underrated decks that I think are going to be very, very good into Quest Mage and Mechathene Warlock and Linecracker Druid. While still potentially, like, Even Shaman is going to suck into Reno Priest. But I think Discard Warlock, if you're fast enough, actually has a really, really good shot into Reno Priest. And so I think those are the 2 decks that I keep an eye out. Again, obviously alongside Quest Mage and Reno Priest. And don't forget that decks like Pirate Warrior and Demon Hunter and Pocket Galaxy Mage, while they're getting nerfed, are still super strong and will be super relevant in the metagame still. But yeah, guys, so those are my thoughts on how the metagame is going to play out. Again, if you agree, disagree, or want to comment on what you think the metagame is going to be, let me know in the comments below. Again, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. And if you guys did, make sure you guys drop that subscription to the channel and hit that like button. So it's free, supports me a lot. And, well, you know, maybe we'll see some more videos similar to this in the future. But yeah, hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Later.